Okay.
Okay, we are live and we are recording, so.
And I have 6:30, so we're,
And 6:28.
oh, okay. I'll wait the 2 minutes.
What are we missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay. Oh, here. We can go, Joanne.
Okay, thank you. Bonsoir, good evening. Bienvenue à notre réunion de conseil. Welcome to our council meeting. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Aucune déclaration d'intérêt pécuniaire? None. Is there a mover and a seconder for the addendum and also for the agenda? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Lise.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that the addendum for the meeting of council held on February the 16th, 2021 be approved as presented.
And there's 2 items that were added to the agenda under planning, D3B, a letter from the chair of the West Nipissing Library Board, and also under new business, under I3, the resolution pertaining to the Ontario COVID-19 response framework, and an email that all members of council have received, which we will be discussing at that point. Any objections? None. Carried. Adopté.
Il est proposé par Conseiller Duhaime, appuyé par Conseillère Lee Senecal. Be it resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on February the 16th, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Any questions? Any objections? None. Carried. Adopté. On procède avec délégation et pétition, delegation and petition. Il me fait plaisir de accueillir parmi nous M. Bruno Lepage, Chair of the West Nipissing Economic Advisory Development Committee, to provide us with a presentation this evening regarding to the committee priority. Donc, bienvenue Bruno. Et on va céder la parole à toi pour procéder avec la présentation, mais une fois fini, ne quitte pas au cas si les membres du conseil ont des questions ou des points de clarification.
Parfait, will do. Thank you. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and to present our 2021 economic development priorities. Although we originally met as a group in March 2020 for our first meeting, little did we know that the tumultuous times we live in would derail our agenda for a good part of the year. Having reconvened in September, our group wanted to waste no time in developing a steering document to help us drive economic prosperity in West Nipissing. Nous sommes un groupe bien diversifié avec des expériences approfondies qui couvrent plusieurs secteurs de notre communauté. Ceci dit, nous avons des experts dans le domaine de l'industrie forestière, de l'éducation, du marketing, des forces policières, des membres du conseil municipal, ainsi que des entrepreneurs et commerçants de notre communauté. We are a diverse group with a depth of experience across multiple sectors in our community. We have experts in forestry, education, marketing, police services, members of council, as well as entrepreneurs and business owners. We have leveraged our combined experience in that of multiple feasibility studies, tourism attraction studies, human development community action plans of past years to ground and guide our vision. Our overall vision is for West Nipissing to become the sought-after community in Northeastern Ontario to play, work, invest, and to innovate. West Nipissing is a place to thrive with a high quality of life and where our multicultural community is valued and celebrated. Our natural resources are at the forefront of day-to-day living with a community ready to learn and to work hard to fuel a thriving economy. So for 2021, our economic development priorities will focus on 3 segments, which are the first, for West Nipissing to become the community of choice for people from all over Ontario who want to relocate to a central location with a joie de vivre, affordable housing, a fantastic quality of life, all while being surrounded by pristine nature and waterways. The second is to celebrate and market the uniqueness and joie de vivre of West Nipissing as a proud multilingual community where diversity is cherished. West Nipissing is a community that challenges the ordinary. And the third is to foster an investment in business-friendly environment with the objective of economic prosperity and a great quality of life. This will be achieved by promoting learning opportunities, job creation, economic development, and innovation in partnership with key economic sectors. So 2 key initiatives to support the 2021 objectives and beyond are to secure 2 feasibility studies this year. The first, we're looking to secure a feasibility for a land use study for the newly acquired warehouse or plot of land, which can later be used to attract investment opportunities, ensuring we can maximize this fantastic acquisition. The second is a housing development strategy. This is to understand the housing needs of our community across socioeconomic groups. This study will be utilized to attract and to partner with developers to meet the individual housing needs of our communities. This will support and advance economic prosperity by ensuring we have the right type of housing to meet the needs of our growing community and our workforce. Our committee is looking for council's endorsement of the priorities document so that we can adopt these priorities, which we can then later be made public. Also, please note that this document will be available in both French and English. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Merci, Bruno. Je vais demander à des membres du conseil pour voir s'ils ont des questions ou s'ils ont besoin aucune clarification. If there's any questions or comments from members of council, and maybe just starting with Conseiller Yvon, do you have any comments or any questions?
Just a comment. Thank you, Bruno, for your presentation. It's a step moving forward that I think is a positive move, and I hope I hope you continue in this endeavor because obviously we do have to work on something to enhance and bring forth people to this community, and I think your initiatives as a group is going to be a good starting point, and I wish you all well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Conseiller, Councillor Chris?
So I can totally get behind that. The one comment I do have is I think possibly a silver lining in the COVID situation is that actually housing in West Nipissing is much more sought after people know they want to move out of the city. So that might be something we can leverage because this is going to last for quite some time. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Conseiller Rowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. At this time, just like to encourage you and moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a great group.
Conseiller Leo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Bruno, for your presentation. I wish you luck with all of your group because it really looks good. You people have done a lot of work, and we'll be there to help you. And thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you for support.
Conseiller Dan?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Bruno. I'd like to just to dive in on objective 3, action items for the next 3 years. You talk about the research, job creation, and retention opportunities in West Nipissing. I think that maybe what you should do too there is you should emphasize the fact that we do a labor market analysis, in as much as what do we have in our labor market? What skill sets do we have? What in any economic development, you have to have that up front, because when an employer comes to the community, they'll want to know what kind of occupations you have in your mix, whether you have skills, semi-skills, whether your population has a bilingual nature, et cetera, et cetera. So I would just add that labor market analysis. And then the other thing, again, action item number 3, objective 3, stimulate the industrial sector by promoting the availability of space. I think that is primordial. I'm aware of a situation where somebody came to the community, was looking at establishing here, and he was told that there was no buildings available. It just so happened somebody found out, and they built something for them. So we have to have an inventory not only of spaces available, we have to have an inventory of large buildings that are available to rent. And I think that should be very front end and one of the important things. In regards to housing, I think that's a great target goals. But I think what we have to do is we shouldn't forget the continuum of housing. And I'll explain. Shelters start getting people off the streets. We don't have an issue with homelessness, but we could. And then there are transitional housing. Those are housing that basically it's a wraparound where you have services, mental health and addiction, that help people move on to become self-sufficient and move into geared to income housing. Mm-hmm. I know our community has a lot of geared to income housing. However, I think it should be a part of our analysis also, because it is part of the continuum of the housing issue. Besides that, those are just some of the comments that I had. Good work. I think you've taken on a leadership role, and let's just move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rita. Actually, we are in agreement. That's why we wanted to really look at the housing across socioeconomic boundaries, not just specifically for single-family homes. We want to look at it holistically to ensure, because if we can't get the workforce to work these new job creations, then it's not cohesive. It's not organic. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Conseiller Denis?
Oui, merci Bruno. Je te laissais savoir qu'en 2003, on avait eu un Economic Development Committee, puis après que le moulin va fermer, on a travaillé au-dessus d'1 an là-dessus pas mal longtemps, puis on avait eu des bonnes suggestions du monde qu'on avait engagé, puis je crois que ça c'était encore sur les tablettes à l'hôtel de ville, là. Je pense que c'est une bonne idée de réviser ce document-là, puis ça vous donnerait peut-être des idées où commencer, puis comment procéder. Puis je sais que dans ce temps-là, on avait parlé de beaucoup du leakage, là, que le monde dépensait des argents des autres, comme à North Bay, Sudbury, on essayait de concentrer là-dessus, mais c'est juste une idée, mais continue le bon travail. Merci.
Merci, conseiller. Absolument, les documents ont été partagés. Oh, il y a du feedback. Là. Les documents ont été partagés au groupe. C'était partie de la base des données qu'on avait utilisées pour créer le document. Puis absolument, c'est un point de référence parce qu'on sait que sont disponibles. Il y a 4-5 recherches qu'on regarde à ce point-ci. Merci.
Stéphane, did you have anything to add? Because I saw your hand was up.
Yeah, through Madam Mayor, it's just to Bruno's point that he just made, all the documents that Councillor Seneca is referring to, we've provided every study and plan that's been prepared, going back to the Community Adjustment Recovery Team when Weyerhaeuser shut down. So this existing committee has had every plan done since 2003 on. So before they created their priorities, they actually had an opportunity to review every plan, and every suggestion, every recommendation has been made.
Thank you. Conseillère Lise? You are on mute, Conseillère Lise. You're still on mute.
Non. Est-ce que vous m'entendez là?
Oui.
Oui.
OK. Excusez-moi, là, c'est parce que le show en tout cas. Merci Bruno pour ta présentation. Je veux dire, comme et vraiment, c'est des grandes lignes parce qu'il y a il y a un document qui est qu'on élabore beaucoup plus, mais là, comme conseiller Revida disait, le housing, tout ça, c'est très important. On peut avoir on peut vouloir attirer des industries en ville, mais si on n'a pas la main-d'œuvre, ça, c'est une chose. Mais si on n'a pas du logement pour la main-d'œuvre, c'est une autre chose. Puis je crois que toi-même, tu as partagé d'avoir des gens de l'extérieur, puis de demeurer à Sturgeon, puis il y avait un peu de place dans Nipissing West pour trouver des appartements. Alors, c'est toutes des choses qu'on n'a pas de choix de regarder ensemble parce que un va avec l'autre. C'est comme si tu attires une industrie et tu n'as pas la main-d'œuvre. Regarde le secteur de santé, c'est pas compliqué à voir que il y a des jobs à tous les jours qui s'ouvrent. La garderie, il y a des jobs à tous les jours qui s'ouvrent. On n'a pas la main-d'œuvre. Alors, c'est très important, mais ça, c'est. Alors, moi, je suis très satisfaite jusqu'à maintenant. On a commencé en mars. We started just a few months ago, and we're very lucky to have around the table the expertise you were talking about, and people that have good experience in marketing and report and helping the committee to go forward. So I think we can do a lot, and it's been a while since I think it was time that we reinstate the ED, and I'm very pleased with what we're seeing, and I personally will do whatever I can to keep on helping the committee. So thank you, Bruno.
Merci à Conseillère Lise. Je vais aussi soulever un grand merci à Bruno, un grand merci à toute l'équipe du Comité de développement économique à Visoire parce que they're all volunteers, sont tous des volontaires, and they have one common objective is that they want, they have their community at heart. And they want to be able to work at moving the community forward and addressing the actual gaps and looking at opportunities where it can continue to grow and for people to have a wonderful quality of life, la joie de vivre ici dans le Nipissing West. Beau travail, Bruno. Excellente présentation. Et félicitations à tous les membres de l'équipe du Comité de développement économique pour leur engagement et leur dévouement envers cette cause, cette initiative très importante.
Thank you, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, you have the option, you can stay and continue watching our meeting or have the pleasure to diversify into something else.
Thank you very much, everyone. I will excuse myself. Thank you again for the opportunity to present today. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. Have a very open door policy. Thank you, everyone.
Merci beaucoup.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. On procède avec comité. We proceed with committee, and the first committee on the agenda is Public Works, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Yvon.
Merci, Madame Mairesse. On a un item sur l'agenda. We have one item, and that's the update of Como Road streetlight. And I'll let, I see Sean is on board here, so I'll let Sean speak to it, and then we'll go around the table and see what else we have to say about it. Go ahead, Sean. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we talked about the Como street light at our last Public Works meeting, and I had promised that I would look into the existing two street lights that were there. So we had our contractor, Greater Sudbury Hydro, go out there, and unfortunately, they did confirm that these two lights are private. They're actually wired to people's homes. So, given that reason, I didn't give the go-ahead to GSU to repair the light. Now, looking back at our current policy, I would recommend that the current homeowners repair the light. The light is already there, so Typically, a bulb change will run maybe a couple $100. But at this point, I would recommend that the current property owners repair their light. As for a municipal street light, this location doesn't necessarily conform with our current policy, specifically sections 1, sections 2, sections 5 of our street lighting policy. So I can only assume that the reason the existing lights are private lights is likely because it didn't conform back when the private lights were installed as well. So I'll leave it to council for direction.
Thank you, Sean, and I greatly appreciate the update. Does anybody have any questions on what Sean is presenting? Okay, Denis, you have a question? Go ahead.
I'm a little confused there, Sean. The email I received from you, you told me that Hydro owned the lamp and everything was good. So now we're reversing our stance, I guess. And I don't think it's do you hear me? Yeah. I don't think it's up to the private sector to be, the onus is not on them to provide lights for our streets. I mean, it's okay that it was there, but they're not even fixing their lights, and they're not probably interested in paying for the hydro. And it is a dark corner, so maybe I can talk with the chair and see what I need to do to push this forward. I'm not sure what I need to do. So anyways, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Denis. I guess what I just want to mention, Denis, what's happened here is that Sean has sent someone out there to look at the lights, and that's when it was noticed that they were privately owned lights. He at first was under the impression one of the lights belonged to not necessarily the municipality, or who at the time it probably would have been. There was an organized area, so I don't know. There was no street stand. It was a privately owned lights. I myself, when I lived in the country, had privately owned lights. So I think, in essence, realistically, we can't, if we start repairing lights for everyone that are privately owned, or putting in street lights, and it'll cost us too much. And like you've mentioned, there is a policy in place. If you wish to proceed on this policy pertaining to our policy, we can look at it then. But other than that, I wouldn't want to put somebody, put us in a position where we would have to be vulnerable to have to fix other lights and other situations similar to what is happening now. It's just my opinion. But if someone has another question about this, I'll take Lise Sénécal.
I think in what Sean was saying that, and I understand that he thought maybe at some point of time that it was, Ontario Hydro because they're lights. So I get that point. But he also mentioned the policy. And I think depending on how old is the policy, maybe it's time for us to revise because there's a policy existing, and maybe if we need to look at it, because I understand that we cannot put light everywhere that they want us to put light. That's very clear. But there might be some place that they might be, I don't know the standards. So first of all, I would ask you to see the policy. If we can look at the policy and see maybe that if there's an appetite around the table to change the policy, to adapt the policy, to try to adjust and the need what it is now and what it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I don't know, Sean, can you add on to that? How old is that policy?
Last revision date I have is 2011. So it would be a 10-year-old policy.
Okay, so do you have a lot of requests for lights during the year?
I would say probably, it's a dozen to maybe half a dozen to a dozen annually. Aside from the lights that we currently maintain. We do have quite a few repairs, replacements that come in throughout the year.
Okay, do you remember the last time that the municipality itself installed a light at in a road?
Eugene, Poirier, Legault, those are some that come to mind, but
Okay.
yeah.
Denis
Okay.
has a, no, see, Lise, Denis, Conseiller Denis has another question.
Yeah, I'm not going to dwell on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's just that I want council to be aware that it's not, we're not talking about a private issue here. It's a public issue. This is a public turnaround, and they had lights installed at the end of their driveways, which make those lights private. But for the public part, where there's a turnaround for plow and everything else, there's no lights there. And there's the pole there that could be installed a light at minimum cost, I'm sure. But I just wanted to make sure that council was aware that it's a public issue, not a private issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Denis. So is there any other questions or comments that other councilors like to make? All right, so I guess the Conseil, yeah, Lise mentioned maybe look at the policy again to revise it or to refresh it or whatever. Maybe we can bring that up sometime later on during the year so that we can look at it and see whether or not there's any changes that need to be made. So I now leave that, Madame Mairesse, I thank you. And that's it for my committee. Joanne, you're on mute. I'm sorry, Madame Mairesse, you're on mute.
Thank you, Councillor Yvon. We're going to proceed to planning, planification, and I'll pass it on to the chair, Conseiller Denis. You're on mute, Conseiller Denis.
Okay, thank you, Madame Mayor. I'm just going to pass that over to Melanie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is largely just an update and an FYI, as my memo indicates. Last year's uncertainty and everything that took place, as everybody's aware, left this file in a bit of a state of abeyance while we were waiting to see what would happen. As indicated in my memo, we are now going to move the file forward as quickly as possible with a view of getting an engineer's report done as fast as possible so that we can remove on the work that we had originally discussed at council in the latter part of 2019 and early part of 2020. So that's basically all, unless there's any questions with regard to the memo.
Any questions on this issue? I think we had, didn't we, Melanie, didn't we agree to have the this ditch or this ditch for the residents to have the town fix the ditch or somehow, or?
Mr. Chair, what had been discussed was doing the whether there was possible to get permission from OMAFRA to do the work prior to the engineer's report. And what happened was the OMAFRA has indicated that they will not pay grant if the work is done outside of the engineering report. So it was included in my memo. So that is where we left that. And unfortunately, we aren't able to do the work until the engineer's report is done, or they won't pay grant to the upstream landowners.
So the landowners are available to receive a grant for that?
Yes, those who have farm tax rate. So in the catchment area, there are a number of landowners who have farm tax rate and are eligible to receive 2/3 grant on their assessment. If we were to do the work without an engineer's report, the ministry would not pay that grant.
Okay, Lise, Conseillère Lise.
Okay, I do understand, but I don't think the Bézina, is it agricole? Because under that, which grant would they lose if we do the work before?
Yeah, not through you, Mr. Chair, not necessarily them, Councillor Lise. It's the other, because the watershed, there's a number of properties in the watershed that are contributing water to that drain. And so everybody who puts water in it is assessed. Some of those are farmers and they would lose their grant.
Okay, but that's okay, you gave me the answer. Now my next question is, because the business that when they did their thing, they were, they were inquiring, they did not mind to pay their portion, their fair portion, but they wanted the repair to be done before, when work was done and damage was done to their property. So what you're saying right now, there's some people around this drain that would have access to the grant, which is great. They won't have access to the grant, but before then we can discuss, we're going to discuss at some point of time their request to have the repair done and damage paid. And I think that was very clear that they wanted to have that done. And I read the report before the meeting, and that's very clear in the report. But so right now, what you're saying that this grant is only available for des terrains agricoles or farm. Ben, c'est la même chose, je pense, là. C'est pas la même chose, peut-être, là, mais sur eux autres, il n'y aurait pas droit à aucun octroi.
I think.
C'est ça. AJ.
Alors, oui, alors, ce qui aurait accès, par exemple, c'est un octroi où, à cause que l'eau, so basically you're building a drainage right away through the Drainage Act, and it's going to be fixed to their liking, but through the Drainage Act. So all of the water that contributes to the problem is going to be basically addressed and through a municipal drain, because there isn't an outlet going that way. And so usually when you dig a ditch in a farmer's field or anywhere else, where that ditch goes, there's a deduction or there's an assessment of the value of that land that it goes through. And that's kind of deducted from their assessment. So they would be getting that benefit. And anything additional to that, then council would have to come back and consider any adjustment to that. But the appropriate way of fixing this issue is through the municipal drain. The water that is in that catchment area is basically not just water that emanates from the road on that side, it's the water that's coming from the north side and draining downward behind Betty. And so that's the water that needs to be assessed and basically captured so that everybody who's benefiting from drainage pays their share.
Okay, so then what I'm hearing, if I might add, continue on the conversation, who's the chair, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
if I can.
sure.
Okay, so I understand, Jay, what you're saying perfectly, but that doesn't solve the matter of that was brought to our attention. So that's two separate issues. So when can we discuss the other issue so we can put that thing to ease, because it's been over a year now, and now we're talking about doing the drain without including them in what they had brought up to our attention. So I don't think we can leave that because it's on the table.
Sure, it isn't mutually exclusive. It would be the same thing. The method to fix their problem there is the municipal drain. Once the drainage engineer's report comes out, Councillor Senecal, you'll have more data. And then at that point, you may want to address other matters, whether you want to vary from who should be paying or what. But in essence, the municipal drain accounts for who should be paying what based on the water, where it comes from, where it goes, and those people pay. And then those folks who don't agree with that also have, through the Drainage Act, rights of appeal. So they have a right to appeal the engineer's report if they don't like what's being happening. And they also have a right to appeal their assessments. And so that could happen. And so I think those processes, council, should happen. And then wait and see. And certainly, I'm sure the Bézinès will be coming back. And at that point, it will be addressed at that time.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay. So what you're saying is we wait for the engineer's report.
I would.
Okay. Any other, Madame Mayor?
Micro, Madame Mayor.
The petition was originated by the municipality, so it means that the engineering report, the cost of it is going to be borne by the municipality. Is that correct?
Only if you decide not to go through with it, but the cost of the engineering report forms part of the drainage cost.
Okay, so it means the cost of the report is going to be shared equally who is part of the watershed. So that's the
Right.
Not
correct.
equally. Not equally.
Well, okay, you say no, but then I see a nod of head, yes.
Well, Melanie, it would be.
No, it'll be
basic-
shared it'll be shared in accordance with the report in the assessments.
Okay, okay. And when I read the memo, why did the engineer not initiate any action on the file once the first day at home order was lifted? There could have been an opportunity at that time to move forward in getting the engineer's report.
As everything, hindsight's easy, but
Well, yeah.
It's here we are.
No, I was just asking a question because like the engineer has already been petitioned to do the report. And I understand the lockdown and the provision of not being able to go on site and conduct the meetings. But when it was initially lifted, the engineer could have proceeded in conducting the legwork that was required. Now, no?
Yeah, sure, off and on. I think it was.
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay, and I guess maybe out of curiosity, has the affected landowner who's experiencing the problem that was reported and brought to council's attention back in 2019 been notified of throughout the year of the progress of this file? Has there been any communication with the affected landowner?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, no, and that is, my bad and the engineering firm's bad. We discussed between ourselves and we kept hoping we were going to be able to move the file forward, but with the gathering restrictions and a variety of other things, it just kept getting, again, our CAO has said hindsight is 2020, and that is why I'm bringing it back to you tonight to let you know that I'm going to be moving the file forward.
Okay, and do we have an estimated, may I, Mr. Chair?
Let's continue, Madam Mayor.
Okay, through you, do we have an estimated time frame of when the report can be finalized and brought back to council?
We hope within 3 months.
3 months? Okay, so at that time, we'll get the information. We'll know exactly what's the recommendation for the work and what's the assessment of all the affected landowners within the watershed. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Melanie, I guess we're going to send a communication to the landowners just to let them know.
We'll be doing tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Okay, that's it for what's my next. Next one is an update for the parking lot for private business deliveries in Odeon, I guess. I'll let you go, Melanie.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I had provided a memo. Council had asked us a variety of questions when I brought it last time. I contacted the landowner or the person wishing to use it and obtained the information. It's in the memo. Apparently, the deliveries will be during the day, during the week, Monday to Friday, and it's uncertain what time. There's no certainty as to the duration. So that's, I'm leaving it with council to determine. I believe that there was also a letter included, which we received from the director of the public library, indicating some concern with the request and requesting council to have consideration for that in making a decision to the request.
Thank you, Melanie. I'll go around and see what, looking for opinions on this matter. Yvonne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, after looking at what was submitted here, deliveries 3 or 4 times, maybe a week, which is not very much. And the duration of the delivery, 5 to 15 minutes, which is not very long. If there's accessibility to the back, I wouldn't have any problems for that. If it's done during the day, nobody, I don't see any problem. I don't have any problem with it. I just, it's just another way of helping the businesses. And I certainly have no problems with what's been said here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Yvonne. Next is Councillor Fisher.
So my inclination is to say, let them do it. And if it turns into a problem, then we stop it. But then we got the letter from the library, and that kind of changed my opinion somewhat. So my stance would be to let them do it for now. And as Stats Can comes back and the library gets used, then we reconsider it at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like I stated the last time that was brought forward, I don't think in the middle of a parking lot backing up trucks, heavy trucks, wide is a safety issue. So I cannot support that. Not in a parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rowley. Next is Councillor Leo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, well, to me, I think on a trial basis for a little while. Also, I think it would be a cost because we have to remove the snow, right? Now we're piling the snow against that building. I don't know if Sean or anybody can answer that, but I don't know if there'd be a cost to it.
Sean, are you available? Yes, he's not there.
Well, okay, Mr. Chair.
I'll keep your question and see if he comes back.
Sorry.
There he is.
Sorry, Councilman. Can you, I was distracted. Could you repeat your question, please?
Would there be a cost if we allow for the trucks to remove the snow? You have to remove the snow now?
Well, if we have to haul the snow out every time we get a snowfall, the cost is going to add up for sure. Yeah, because it would essentially have to be loaded into trucks and hauled away. So obviously there would be delays, and it's time, and time is money, unfortunately, in our business.
Okay, but yes, Mr. Chair, yes, I would agree to on a trial basis to let them use it, and if it's a cost, and then if there's a problem, and then we just stop.
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Leo. Next is Councillor Ravida.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm pulled because for years people have unloaded on King Street, and it doesn't seem to be an issue. There's trucks always parked in front of Carl's or Adu's or Don's. There's always trucks parked all over the place. Is it such a problem that if you parked in front of the King Street, that it would cause an issue? Because I'm a little worried about the liability issue. And I'm asking the CAO, do we have a liability issue if we permit him to back up in a parking lot?
Yes. If anybody was watching Global News today, it's a different, but big machines today at a school injured a 12-year-old boy. So fooling around when people are removing snow is not recommended. And so, if something happens, like any liability issue, it's a low probability. But when it does happen, it will be our fault.
Thank you, Jay.
Supplemental to that,
Councillor, good. Go ahead.
So if there is an issue with that, and we have the library saying that they have no parking, and then we have, if Stats Can comes back, I sort of can't agree with this. I'm just wondering why he cannot move the stuff. I guess it's because he can't move the carpet rolls through the store. Is that the issue? By parking on. But I just want to clarify the point that if we have a liability issue, it's going to bugger up our parking. I can't support this.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dan. I guess your answer is no. So we'll move ahead to, we have to wait there. Mayor Joanne. Chris, I'll get you after.
Okay. You know, after serious consideration, right now, the parking lot has nearly no vehicles. I don't anticipate that we're going to have a bundle of vehicles parked there in the upcoming months with the situation of COVID. So for the time being, I would say yes, but I would impose a condition because there are other transports that basically park and block vehicle passage, and that they are required to make sure to have an attendant out there directing the vehicles. So here, due to the fact that it's a parking lot, I would insist that the business owner has someone out there guiding whoever is walking, or if there's a vehicle that's trying to get out of a parking lot for the time being, to ensure the extra step of safety. I can't see that they're going to be able to do this on King Street because they're going to block access to patrons of other local businesses, and that would be putting them in an unfair situation. And if you look at historically around town, okay, it's unique, it's our parking lot, but when there used to be Foodland, there was a parking lot at the back and there were transports that were backing up there. And there's been other locations, but for the time being, I think because of the minimal usage of the parking lot, we should grant it, but we should also impose the requirement that they have an attendant that's there that is doing surveillance pertaining to vehicles and any individuals that would be walking to ensure the extra safety. And if it becomes problematic where everything reconvenes to normal, then it could be brought back to council and we can hash that discussion at that point.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do you have a comment, Sean?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. Just want to, another option that we have is through our traffic and parking bylaw. We do have some wording on the loading zone where council could establish, a specific area during specific times that kind of parking along King Street would be dedicated to businesses for, so just to put it out there, we do have that option in our current traffic and parking bylaw that council could look at should they wish.
Thank you, Sean. Next is conseillère Lise.
Oui, ben moi, c'est justement ça que je t'ai pas demandé parce que je suis pas confortable en arrière. Not in, really, right now, that would be okay because StatsCan is closed and the library, but when things open, there's no way. If people get a library, and even if 15, 20 minutes to get to their car and they have to wait to get out, I don't think it's fair. The parking lot is, there's an agreement with the library, and Stats Canada and have to be respected. And it would be very dangerous to back up, okay? But I'm not saying that I don't agree with that, but right now that would be okay because none of that is happening. The front though, because, and I think I understand why they're asking for the back, because yes, Councillor Dan, you're right that Foodland, even Don's, whatever, they are parking on the street. But a big transport, because it's big roll of the carpet, I mean, we have the light not too far from, and I think that's the main, that would be a main issue on Main Street. But like Sean said, if it's possible that we keep long enough for transport to park on that side of the street and for a certain hour during the day, so that would not interfere with the traffic at all, and they can be used on both sides of the street. Because most of the time when you go in town in the afternoon and I go to the pharmacy, the Caisse, there's always parking space available right in town. And for the Caisse Populaire, you can go and park at the back if you need to go there for the pharmacy. So I think it would be a great option to block, I don't know, 4 parking space between a certain time. And then the businessman could advise his supplier that between those times, that's a time for delivery. After that, he won't be able to do it. So I don't know which time would be more, but that could be a look into it. I think that would be an option that would be feasible to do first. Safety on Front Street, and safety at the back also. So that would be my option. Jay, you got something to say? So, okay.
So are you saying no or yes?
Well, I don't know. I'm
Well,
looking at the other option. There's another option in front of us, Mr. Chair, and the option is to make parking space in front. So right now, I agree that we use the back, but the back, it's only very, very much temporarily till the front is bent. But at the back, as soon as Stats Canada, so it's not a yes or a no, because it won't be feasible when everybody's parked there.
okay, thank you, Madam Conseiller. Jay, you have something to add?
Well, I was just on the in the background with Sean because he raised the issue of snow removal, and I asked him, would he have to remove snow? And he says not any more than he does now. Because if he did, my question to council would be, would you be requiring the business owner that cost? But Sean, if you can pop in here, Sean, you don't think that there's snow removal to accommodate the loading zone?
Sorry, Jay, I thought you were referencing like if we were to do a loading zone in the front, but if we were in the back parking, we currently kind of store our snow there until we are caught up, and then the crews will go in and start removing it once we're caught up. So if we are encumbering his deliveries, then yeah, that would generate service requests for us to go and remove the snow from the back parking.
So I just raised that for council to, if council goes that way, if you're would like to direct us to put that as a condition in the wintertime, that he would we would charge him that snow removal fee.
Thank you, Jay. And I think Rowley. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, also, Councillor Lee's brought a good point there also, is when that truck is backed up, let's say we were to let him use the back to unload, that would prevent the vehicles that are parked there from leaving or going in. And that would not be fair. So that's the reason I just want to throw that out there, that I cannot support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yvonne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madame Mayor has brought up a good issue. There should be someone behind that truck at all times to make sure that there's no vehicles or personnel walking in behind the truck, making sure everything is safe. And we should emphasize that for sure, for the time being. As we will let him use the back for this moment. But there was also mentioned that the King Street, it's a bad area because we're close to the light. A lot of parking for la Caisse Populaire and a lot of parking for the small businesses. In the memo we receive, the person that's asking for the parking does not know when they will make the delivery. So it's hard to have a certain time set up for that loading zone. As far as the snow, I don't think we're blocking his back door. I'm not sure, but with respect to the snow there. But I do agree with Jay. If there is a problem with the snow and there's a cost to remove it, then he pays for it. I have no problem with that. And we could put that in the recommendation. And that's it, Mr. Chair. I thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Yvonne. Is there any other comments? Just like this, okay? Councillor Senecal.
It's just that can we look at the agree today or disagree, because that's what you're asking, if they want at the back. But I think everybody that said back said till they can, and after that to look back at the situation. Is it possible to look on Main Street and have even from 10 to 4 one side kept that the transport for delivery on any business from that point of view? Because we have a parking lot, a municipal parking lot behind what used to be the King Edward. And then we had one at the pharmacy, we had one at the Caisse Populaire. So there's a lot of parking space available for people using those business in town. So is it feasible? Because I mean, my vote would go now for sure. They can use it. Yes, I agree that they should pay if there's snow removal, because I mean, I think that's not unreasonable to ask that, because really we don't have to to dig that snow if there's nobody working, right? So I think right now, if there's snow removal, it should be paid. But I mean, I want that option to be look at it, and I thought Jay, you would talk about that if it's possible. But right now, I mean, I'm debating because both places are not the best place for delivery. And one is used, and the other one, we can have an option to make it safe, which is the front street. So why not look at that too in the meantime? So I would ask you to go around and see if people, council is obligated to that, and then vote for now what we're doing for delivery.
You want to chair the meeting with them?
No, councilor, no, I'm just, no, you want to be funny, it's okay, but I'm just a recommendation, Councilor Denis.
I'll just wrap it up here if you don't mind.
Okay.
So my thought is, if I can speak, my thought is that we should go try the parking lot for a little while, see if it works. If it doesn't work, well, we'll try other solutions. Or we can send it back to Melody and she can talk to the owner and see if there's some sort of consensus to be had here with the cost, and would the King Street can we do something with that? Or I think maybe we should bring it back. We're not really on the same page. So could you look at the conditions, and for the condition of having somebody there, well, there's always a truck driver and the store owner is going to be there. So there's two people there every time, I'm sure. So that shouldn't be an option, a problem. But I guess the snow and I feel we should look at it a little more, to maybe talk with the bylaw officers for King Street and the owners. And what do you think? I think my tendency is to send it back. Madam Mayor, you have a comment?
When does the business need to start having access for transport deliveries? I'm just going with the idea that they might be opening their doors in the near future.
It's
March 1st.
Yes.
When is it? March 1st?
March 1st.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, if there's no changes with the volume of parking of what we see now, would a recommendation say that proceed using the back parking lot as majority have identified, let's do it for the time being, and direct staff to come back for when the parking gets utilized at full capacity? Then we know that we're going to have to proceed in reviewing our decision and looking at other opportunities.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Any more comments? Jay?
Well, just to try and put a detail, I'm not arguing. If that's the position of council, we would set up some sort of a use agreement, a license use agreement, and the agreement would be indicating to them that the municipality, reserves the right to cancel this agreement with small notice. Also, that a requirement would be to have the proper attendance to ensure safety. And then a third one is that we'll do a calculation of what it would cost. We'll do an assessment. We're not going to try and charge them if we don't need to. If we don't need to remove snow, obviously we won't. But if we need to remove snow, we'll have to do work with Sean and do a time analysis and what that cost would be for per session. And they'd have to, understand that that would be part of a license agreement or a land use agreement.
Sounds good to me. All in favor of that suggestion? Okay. We can proceed with that, Melanie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Denis? Mr. Chair?
Sorry. Yes, Councilor Ravida.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can at the same time, parallel, can we look at what Councilor Lee's suggested about the parking on the main on King Street, not the main drag, on King Street, to see if that's an alternative in case we come back and say, no, you can't use our parking lot anymore?
Thank you, Councilor Dan. I think that's a good idea. We should just in case we need that later on, if this agreement doesn't work doesn't work for us. So this is a temporary thing. We'll have him with a contract, and then we can proceed and discuss this further as we get more information. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks. I give the floor back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move on to the next committee, le prochain comité, Community Services Service Communautaire. It's a COVID update. So I'm going to pass it on to the CEO, to the Director of Community Services and ECDEV for updates pertaining to COVID.
I'll let Steph lead on that.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So COVID update, what we're faced with pertaining to community services is, as council is all aware, as per directive, due to the extension of the lockdown, both of our arenas have been shut down. Effective as of last week, all the user groups have been notified. All the groups that had ice rental agreements with the municipality have been notified. I believe by Thursday this week, both arenas will be free of ice, and we're working towards basically putting our ice plants in dormant mode so that they're ready to be fired back up in the fall. In addition, due to the fact that the lockdown's been extended, we're still awaiting guidelines and protocols from the health unit on the eventual reopening of our facilities, such as the pool and gym at the complex. Again, shutdown or lockdown and stay-at-home order has been extended till the 22nd. So we're hoping that news will come out regarding the status for these facilities moving forward by the end of this week, so that we can start getting prepared possibly for reopening, maybe not next week, because we're going to have to get some work done and allow people to call in and book their sessions. But as soon as we possibly can, we want these facilities to reopen. As you're aware, sliding hills and outdoor rinks remain closed as well. So hopefully, again, guideline from either the health unit or the province or both will be coming out more towards the end of this week, so that we know if there'll be further extensions of these lockdowns and stay-at-home orders for our health unit region beyond the 22nd. One question I do have for council and direction being sought is pertaining to outdoor rinks. So if the lockdown is lifted and outdoor rinks and sliding hills are essentially allowed to reopen as early as the 22nd, as council is aware, we haven't maintained our outdoor rinks over the last month and even more. We would need to give our attendance. If we're provided notice at the end of this week, we would have to give our attendance some notice that they are to resume work if council wishes to keep our outdoor rinks open for as long as we possibly can. As we're all aware, outdoor rinks are dependent on weather. So if I look at the calendar and we're allowed to open next week, if the attendants can get the ice back in a usable state at some point the week of February 22nd, again, pending weather, we could potentially have 3, possibly 4 weeks of outdoor rink activities. Again, weather will depend on that. It appears as though, it's going to warm up a bit by the end of this week. We've traditionally not have had very much success with keeping our outdoor rinks open for March break. March break this year is March 15th to the 19th. Oh no, sorry, they've actually pushed that back. But I use March break as a mark that we basically based ourselves on. Over the last 5, 6, 7 years, we haven't seen our outdoor rinks open mid-March as much as we'd like. So again, I leave it to council to basically provide direction to us, whether it's council's wish to continue operating our outdoor rinks for possibly as long as we possibly can, if they're allowed to open next week, or does council want to make the decision regarding the status of the rinks and basically directing us to not build the ice back up.
Okay. Thank you, Stefan. I think it warrants definitely the feedback of each member of council. Just out of curiosity, before I do ask what their position is, if the stay-at-home order is lifted and we can reopen the skating rink, customarily, what's the timeline to be able to build the ice for users to be able to enjoy it? A couple of days or?
Yeah, I wouldn't think much more than that, as long as weather's cooperating and we still have a good base underneath that snow. I think if we do some snow removal and if it's cold enough at night to start watering again, I think it's a matter of a couple of days, and we could possibly have the rinks reopened.
Okay, so I'll do a roundtable to find out who would be in favor of reopening the rinks if the stay-at-home order is lifted on the 22nd, and that we get the green light to be able to reopen skating rinks. Okay, I'll start with Conseiller Yvon. Would you agree or not agree?
I would agree that we do everything humanly possible to keep the rinks open. And I would also suggest that if and when we're ready to open the rinks, that we supply the personnel who is working there on the rinks with personnel from the recreation department to help them remove the snow and water the rinks, every rink that we have in this municipality. I would suggest that to get it going as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Conseiller Yvon. Councillor Chris?
I agree with Yvon. It's all doom and gloom at the moment. I think we need some glimmer of hope somewhere for people. So I would completely agree with Yvon.
Okay, Conseiller Broley?
Totally agree. The base is there. It wouldn't be much to get it going. Thank you.
Conseiller Leo?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I also agree.
Okay. Conseiller Dan?
Yes, I agree.
Conseiller Denis?
Yes, I agree with Yvon.
And Conseiller Lise?
I agree.
Okay, so direction, if we can proceed in reopening the rink after February 22nd, and even here, if there's any assistance support required by recreational employees to provide them with the support so we can get those rinks open as quickly as possible. Hopefully, we'll see and wait what the decision is going to be by the North Bay Paris Sound Health Unit. Conseiller Denis, I see that you may have a question or a comment.
Thank you. Just for a minute. Stefan, could the employees start shoveling the rinks right away, or would they have to wait till they lift the shutdown?
Technically, we could start maintaining the rinks, but if it's extended any further, then we'd be doing that for naught. And the other thing is, if we get the ice in a usable state, we could potentially, it would be inviting for the public to try to jump on one of our outdoor rinks. I think hopefully, Councillor, if we can get the go-ahead that yes, rinks can reopen next week, I'm confident that if we do dedicate some staffing resources to help the attendance, I'm sure by the 22nd or close, as long as weather's cooperating, we could be in a position where people could start reusing our rinks.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any other information pertaining to COVID, or was that the only direction that was required pertaining to recreation?
On community services point, that was all I had for my report, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Now that concludes our committees for this evening. And so we proceed to the regular portion of the council. On procède avec la séance régulière under correspondence and accounts, des courriers et les comptes. Did I miss anything?
No.
No? So I guess we would need volunteers as movers and seconders for F1 for minutes of February 2nd. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of council held on February the 2nd, 2021 be adopted as presented.
Are there any questions or comments? I I just had one comment, and it had to do with D2A, the petition demolition of St. Mary's School and Field. It makes reference that it's going for a tax sale, and if unsuccessful, then it would come back to council, and council could determine the wish to be able to vest the property. We did discuss the memo dated January 29th that was enclosed in the open portion, and it provided 3 options to council. So I just wanted to make sure that those options were identified in the memo. I'm not looking for an amendment. I'm just stating it so it's on record. So coming back to the resolution for the minutes, if there's no further questions or comments, those in favor? Carried. Is there a volunteer for F2 to receive the minutes from various boards? A mover and a seconder, Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following boards and committees be received. West Nipissing Environmental Services Board, November 16th. West Nipissing Accessibility Committee, December 17th. North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit, December 9th, 2020.
Okay, questions, Conseiller Lise and Conseiller Denis.
I do have a question on environmental, which is the AGM, I guess. They still have the name of just again on it. So just, I think it's just not a big deal, but it's just showing there. I don't think he was at the meeting of the 16th. And on the second, the one for the regular meeting, I do have a comment to make, or a question, not a comment, on I think it's page 3, Leving Recycling Depot. I have a comment on a question on B, I, E, and D. Je ne sais pas quel que c'est là, mais c'est en dessous de Leving Recycling Depot, page 3. So decision is to be made at board level and not at council. So my question is, who does make the decision on services for our resident in West Nipissing?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't have that in front of you. If there's an issue with the minutes with respect to the accuracy, the decision on service levels rest with council. If they're talking about a decision that needs to be made at their level, it isn't up to them. It's up to them to provide a cost as to what the service level, or whether they can pull it off or not. These minutes, though, you are not actually correcting or doing anything. So what
I have a question about it, Jay. It's not, I know I cannot correct it. I just have a question about when somebody say a board said that the decision is to be made at board level and not council. That's why I'm asking you, who makes decision on services provided?
I just answered that. Council.
Okay, so I don't know why it's there, because I mean, if it's made,
I don't know either.
Because they're talking about putting something, and it's because when it was just for even garbage bag, we decided to make the decision. So,
right.
Okay, you answer my question. So council make the decision, and then I go to E now, C, which is West Nipissing. They're looking for a tech mechanicien. Okay. Did we hire a mechanicien at because we had approved one at the previous budget for 2020. And I think he was hired, or she, yes, I don't know, but okay. So was not, they were not supposed to, pardon me, it's hard, Jay, you're cutting off, I don't know. Okay, so did we?
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question.
Okay, so
we did.
So the question of Conseiller Lise was, did we hire a mechanic for the budget 2020 as approved? And the answer is yes, we hired a mechanic.
Okay, so was the
Right.
purpose of hiring one was to help every department? So now they asking for a new one. I don't know because I think that's what they're saying. Right?
Yeah.
Is that what anybody,
So,
Rolly, can you answer that? Because you're Rolly, you're on that board.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we hired one. Okay, so we'll discuss that at budget, but
We hired one for Public Works. Yes.
pardon me?
We hired one for Public Works.
Yeah, I
Yes.
know that. So, but I'm asking is now the board wants to recommendation to hire one for just environment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll discuss that at committee. So okay, you answered both my questions. Thank you.
Okay, but just a point of clarification, I saw Jay had his finger up. When we hired the mechanic position, it was not strictly for Public Works. What was provided to council is that the benefit to all the departments of the municipality by retaining and having a mechanic on deck for heavy equipment would be beneficial.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
just wanted, sorry, Jay?
Yes. So if I could speak to that, yes, a mechanic was hired under the cost center of Public Works. There are two right now. What is happening right now is when we have vehicles in other areas, other departments of the municipality, we are, and this is brand new, the person's probably only been here since right before Christmas. And so we are just starting to implement those kind of issues. Separately from that, there is a request that went to West Nipissing Environmental Services by the manager, and conceptually, they agreed to that. I wasn't at that meeting. Perhaps that could be discussed at our budget, or they could look at a postponement after it's gone to council and looked at. But what they deemed right now is that the need was there. And so to answer your question, last year we did indicate that when we were going to hire a person, that we were going to try and spread that person out as much as possibly we can, and that's still our attempt to do so.
Okay, I'll pass it on to Conseiller Denis because he had his hand up right after you, Conseiller Elise, and I think Conseiller Yvon, and then go back to Conseiller Elise. Conseiller Denis?
Yes, I have a question about the minutes from the same place, Living Recycling Depot. I think I'll direct that to Councillor Rollet. Your comment was suggested to do the same as River Valley and add the CCAN in Living. Because that wasn't our intent from the start. So I'm just wondering if things have changed or what's this?
What I am suggesting is that you have that same service as we have here in River Valley. Which is CCAN and their man. So that way things are going at the proper location.
So then there's a big cost to it. You want somebody there.
Okay.
No, that would be established at the dump.
Yeah. So I think Conseiller Rowley,
Okay.
I think, okay, now.
Okay, it's clear.
Yeah, council discussed having recycling bins in Living. Council agreed to it, but at the board meeting, the board member, Conseiller Rowley.
You will have a price of what it costs to bring those blue bins in Living.
Okay, no, but I'm just referring to the question of Conseiller Denis. Okay, if I may.
You already have that?
If I may, can I just ask a question here, or maybe make a comment so we're all on the same page? The comment is pertaining to the recommendation that CCANs should be put in place, the same thing as River Valley for Living.
That is correct.
Okay, but that was not the request that council had discussed over a year ago. The request was the recycling bins. So the CCAN issue is a separate issue on its own.
Well, if council feels that those blue bins,
but at that point,
there's going to be a cost to them.
Yeah, at that point, it was clarifying what's in the minutes. If we need to discuss the CCAN, that needs to come back to council and
We'll
council
bring it back.
discusses that. Jay?
You're right. So, you know, I wouldn't get too focused on a discussion with an autonomous corporation. And if Councillor Rowley, as a director, is expressing his opinion there, that may not be the opinion of council after deliberation. He's sharing that view with his, with the people at the board at that level. What council has directed is to look at putting recycling bins in Living and Cache Bay. And so the costing for that is going to be done, as indicated, and that will be brought back to council. Council will then deliberate whether that's acceptable to them and that cost is acceptable to them. And if that's the case, it'll move forward as such. If that is not the case, then at that point we'll discuss other alternatives. But the discussion as to what level of service is a council decision.
Okay, thank you. And that's what I wanted to clarify. Councillor Elise?
Okay, I forgot one question because they're talking about collective agreement and I'm pretty green about that. So is QP the same for everybody's environmental, the employee at even the environmental are part of QP? Yes or no, Jay? Is it that
They're part of
union?
QP, different local.
Different local, but they are part of QP. And so that's the
They are
same as the
QP.
municipality, the rest of the municipality, right?
Yes, different collective bargaining agreement though.
Okay, so when was the last time that a bargaining agreement was done with them? Because I don't recall, we had one, but I think the first one in 2019 was the one for public work, community, all of the other, that was not, environmental was not like that,
Right.
in that, right?
No,
Okay, so when
that's
was the
right.
last?
That wasn't included in that.
So when is the next one, or where was the last one? Because they mentioned it that the new
Not
employee.
sure. I'm going to assume what you're asking. If you're asking, I believe we just settled with QP 53503. If that's what was referenced in the minutes, I don't have them in front of me. And that was brought back to their board to discuss or for ratification. And so that was what was brought up. And I believe it was a 3-year agreement. I don't have that in front of me. As I indicate, you're raising good points, but typically when we receive minutes, I'm not necessarily as prepared to answer those. But if you have the minutes in front of you and it talks about ratifying that agreement, then that's what it is.
No, Jacob, may I ask something,
Yes,
Madam Mayor?
yes, Councillor Elise.
Just to clarify, Jay, I understand you don't have in front of you. What the minute is saying that they're talking about hiring a new mechanic, and
Right.
that person would be part of the collective agreement, and it made me think about when was the last time. And the last time was in 2019, but I don't recall that it was part, the environment was part of that. So did it happen at the same time in 2019?
No.
Because that's the only one that we talk about it. Right?
So what that statement refers to is that it would be a bargaining unit member, is all. So if they decided to go ahead and hire a mechanic, then we would have to enter into a negotiation with that, with the union, 53503, to negotiate the rates. The union would not balk or say no at a new position in their local. But typically, when we create a unionized position that isn't classified in the CBA or the current CBA, then we need to set a rate that's mutually agreeable with the union.
Okay, so I understand that. So then I'll be more specific. When was the last time the 535 local bargaining, whatever unit you call it, was negotiated, or rectified, or whatever? Was it at the same time as the 219?
No,
Okay.
They ratified after. So they've just ratified.
Okay, but we didn't, I don't recall that we discussed that at the table. Maybe I forgot.
It's because it's not your table. It's their table. So 53503 is an agreement between West Nipissing Environmental Services and local CUPE Local 53503. 53501 and 02 are agreements between the municipality of West Nipissing and CUPE locals. So you have no say or business in that local.
It's really, maybe we'll have a discussion about that later on because it's hard to understand because I know it's a different board, but it's still, we decide on the budget. And and then the QP is the same as a part of the union, the other employee, but different local. So, I mean, when it's different local, then depending, it's not, we don't need to know. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Okay. My only, before we move on to the other minutes, I noticed that the last meeting was January 18. Is there an update of when the next meeting for the board is, the board is scheduled to meet? If there's no date at this time, is there a possibility of being shared that date? If there's anyone that would like to attend that meeting, they have the opportunity to do so like any other meeting of council or boards. Because they are public, right?
All our board
They
are
are public.
public.
They can't attend. They can't participate.
No,
It
I'm
would
not
be like
asking for.
sitting in the audience. Yes, we'll give you the date. Yeah.
Okay,
we'll share
no,
with
it's
you.
just the fact that right now it's unknown and it's not posted nowhere. So it'd be appreciative of knowing when the next meeting would be scheduled. Thank you.
It's usually on the council's webpage. Madam Mayor.
Well, I haven't seen it, so.
Okay.
But
I'll make sure it's there.
Thank you. That would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, we also had the minutes pertaining to accessibility, and we also had minutes for the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit. Are there any questions or comments pertaining to those minutes? Because they're all part of the same resolution. None? So we have the resolution was read pertaining to adopting and moving those minutes to receive the minutes. I'm just trying to remember here. Am I correct, Mélanie?
That's correct.
Yeah? Okay. So is everyone in agreement in receiving the minutes as per the resolution? No objection? Carried. Adopted. We move on to new business and new business.
There's another resolution, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, the disbursements. Is there a move, a volunteer as a mover and a seconder for the disbursements? Conseiller Chris? Conseiller Yvon?
Il est proposé par le Conseil Fisher, appuyé par le Conseil Duhaime. Be it resolved that the accounts payable disbursement sheets for December 2020 be received.
Any questions or comments? Conseiller Lise? You're on mute, Conseiller Lise.
It's page 18, number 91. I just capital construction and work in progress for the amount of 680. Is that for the OPP station?
That's correct.
Okay, and can you, Alicia, because I saw a big sign when I went to for a ride, and it said capital with capi. CAPITOL instead. So what is the difference? And I know they're two companies. So do you know the difference between those two? Or maybe you or Jay, whatever, but.
No, it's not two companies. So if there's an O, we'll just double check their invoicing and we'll fix their name in our system.
Okay, so that's okay. But I saw it on that big sign. It was an O. Okay.
I'll check. Yeah.
Okay. No, it just okay. And the other one was not okay. The indoor page 18, 146. Sturgeon Power rent for all facility maintenance outdoor. So what are we renting for the rink, the outdoor rink? Just do you have it? It's number 146, page 18.
If I can, I'd have to check to see specifically what it was. It could be a number of different things. If it's listed under outdoor rinks, it could be anything from, I don't know, pump, could be anything. I'd have to double check to see exactly what we rented for to support our outdoor rinks, but I can come back to you with that answer shortly.
Okay, it's not a big deal. It's just for that, I don't know, like it's renting something. Jay, do you have something? I see your mouth going. No? Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Conseil Dan?
May sound like a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway. Alyssa, when you have a negative in front of the number, does that mean that we're invoiced it, but then they didn't do the work and we give them, can you explain that to me?
So it appears for a couple of different reasons. It means it's been a credit on our statement or credit on an invoice. And so it's a credit that's gone to one account. So on our water, we pay for the great big buckets that the chemicals come in, and then they give us a credit when we send the supplies back to them. So it's just a credit that we've got from, some reason that's appeared there.
So it goes back into the pot.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Because there's a number of them. There's one for capital construction. There's one for Seguin.
Those are probably holdbacks.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any further questions? I just had one, and it was line item 767. It has to do with the Leving landfill. The supplier, Dépotoir Leving landfill, description contractor, and then we did a disbursement of $5,000. I was just wondering in the future if it's possible to identify to whom the check is payable to, because I'm making the assumption, maybe I'm incorrect, that the payment would have been made to Dépotoir Leving landfill, or is it made to a specific individual or a specific company?
The company is actually Dépotoir Leving Landfill. That's actually the company. They're one of those small boards that run our outside landfill site. So that is actually their name of the organization.
Okay, so it is a board.
Yep.
Okay, and I mean, subsequent to that, the board remains in existence dating back from years ago. There's been no changes, or there's a mechanism that we track that as well within our accounting process?
Within the accounting process, I'm just tracking who the contractor is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, to answer your question, though, it's a fair question. That landfill board had taken on a different look way back when Mr. Blake, I just popped out of my head. They were involved, and then they got out of it, and then we kept the same structure going forward with different signing authorities. But we have to look at all of our landfill corporations and how we manage our landfill corporations. We're looking at it right now because our Kipling Landfill Corporation is at a point where we are going to need to bring that back out to a RFP or consider an entirely different structure. We've been doing that because it's been quite cost effective to continue on. And we've been, there's been workers that have been there, but that is something, Madam Mayor, that is going to come back to council very shortly to look at all our landfill corporations and how they're structured.
Okay, no, you've answered my question because I wasn't too sure, and throughout the years, and so I'm making the assumption that the actual board are the ones that are paying the attendant that works at the landfill. So it doesn't necessarily mean the attendant gets $5,000, whatever.
no, there's, they all kind of charge us anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 a year. That involves salaries, it involves certain removals, certain work on the sites. Some of the big capital, it is our sites. We do help them out a little bit more when the 15 doesn't work. It's still our site. But in general, they do the general maintenance and the covering and that kind of thing with that money.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Madam Mayor, can I just jump in here? I think I have the answer to Councillor Lee's question regarding the Sturgeon rental facility maintenance. I believe that amount was to cover the office trailer that we rented to put at Goulard Park. And so they basically returned the trailer back after last season was done. And I'm thinking that the invoicing was not done till later that year. And now the disbursement is happening for the rental of the office trailer because we don't have a permanent building at the outdoor rink in Goulard Park. So that would be for that, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions? None? Coming back to the resolution, all in favor? Carried. On procède avec affaires nouvelles. And the first item has to do with an authorization to enter into an agreement with MTO pertaining to the replacement of the Little Cache Creek culvert at the intersection of Highway 17 and Arcan Road. And I'll just quickly pass it on to our clerk, just if there's any additional information to provide to council.
Can we get a mover and a seconder for the resolution?
Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duham and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to sign a permission to construct agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Transportation for the purpose of constructing staging operations during the replacement of the Little Cache Creek culvert located at the intersection of Highway 17 and Arcan Road. Through you, Madam Mayor, this is, they're planning to replace that large culvert sometime between 2022 and 2024. This is just the preliminary agreement with the municipality because there will be a staging area along the side of the north side of the highway at that area where the equipment will be parked and materials will be piled and this and that. So it's just the preliminary with a view of moving forward with that project in the next couple of years.
Okay, perfect. Are there any questions? Autre question à cet effet-là? It just seemed odd that they're asking for this agreement like more than a year before the work is going to be done. But I'm not going to contest that, the planning. And I know that there's different levels involved, as far as the coordination. So if there's no objection, everyone is in favor, carried, adopted. Okay, so we'll need a volunteer as a mover and a seconder for the resolution dealing with the Grey Highlands pertaining to liability insurance. Conseiller Leo. Conseiller Dan.
It is moved by Councillor Malette and seconded by Councillor Ravita. Whereas the municipality of West Nipissing received requests for support from the municipality of Grey Highlands, the township of Larder Lake, the municipality of Charlton and Dak, calling on the provincial government to immediately review the AMO recommendations pertaining to joint and several liability insurance costs, which continue to increase at unsustainable rates. Be it resolved that the Council for the West Nipissing Municipality supports the municipality of Grey Highlands, the township of Larder Lake, and the municipality of Charlton and Dak's resolutions calling on the provincial government to review the recommendations pertaining to joint and several liability insurance in an effort to address unsustainable insurance costs. And be it further resolved that the Council for the West Nipissing Municipality also requests that the resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Finance, the Attorney General of Ontario, the local member of Parliament, member of Provincial Parliament, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all Ontario municipalities.
Okay, so before proceeding to the resolution, I just want to be able to pass it on to Alyssa because she did provide us with an overview pertaining to insurance and the insurance cost and how insurance costs have been escalating. So Alyssa, do you want to walk us through the memo that you provided to council?
Sure, thanks. So as the memo stated, our insurance costs have sort of, increased the last couple of years. And then this year we had the significant increase. And certainly we were not alone in having a significant increase this year. Our partners across the Northeast saw some substantial increases in insurance costs. And the reasons for it are a few. And one is that, that there are just fewer and fewer insurance companies that are willing to insure municipalities. The pool is getting smaller and smaller as to what companies will actually insure municipalities. And some of the reasons for that is, as the memo mentioned, some of these things that are sort of, beyond the government's control, like the weather events that have caused a large amount of damages in various areas. But as the other municipalities are looking at, they're looking at that joint and several liability as well, which means, not necessarily with our claims particularly, but that as a municipality, kind of, as an industry, that, if municipality gets sued and multiple people get sued, it's assumed that everyone is equally responsible. And there's a sort of an assumption that municipalities can just continue to pay. And so it doesn't matter, if Councillor Revita and the municipality both get sued, but Councillor Revita doesn't have insurance and they're not going to get anything from Councillor Revita, but they assume that they'll get the whole shot from the municipality then. And that's sort of this underlying assumption with insurances based on how the structure is. And that's certainly contributing to why insurance companies are getting out of the game with municipalities, and certainly contributing to these escalating costs that we're seeing. So, we get these various different requests to support other resolutions across the province. This is one I think we should get behind because it's going to price us right out of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it was quite interesting to see the increases throughout the last couple of years and the impact that we're going to be faced with. Mm-hmm. So, based on that, based on the information provided, are there any objections pertaining to the resolution that was presented to support the lobbying to have this restabilized as much as possible? That's the goal. Everyone in agreement? Adopted? Carried. The next item is part of the addendum, which deals with the email that was sent to all members of council. There is a resolution also. Would there be a volunteer as a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Yvon? Conseiller Léo?
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the Council for the West Nipissing Municipality requests that the North Bay Parry Sound District Health Unit immediately be transitioned out of the shutdown and into the revised Ontario COVID-19 response framework. Be it further resolved that Council asks for the immediate opening of outdoor rinks, toboggan hills, and snow machine trails in the district. Be it further resolved that the Council also formally requests to be consulted on any further deviations from the provincial framework. And be it finally resolved that Council recommends that the Health Unit conduct a cost-benefit analysis of the lockdown in our region while weighing the risks of COVID-19 against the toll on local businesses, the increase in opioid deaths in the region, and the overall mental health of the residents in our district.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll open the floor to find out what is the position or what is the decision of members of council. But this was a resolution that was shared along with an email that was sent to all of us. The email comes from a concerned citizen of West Nipissing. I'm not going to read it all, but it makes reference to disappointment or concerns of the decision to remain in lockdown. and provided statistical information regarding COVID cases, COVID death, current outbreak, the number of active cases, the COVID variants, hospitalization, other crises pertaining to opioid, outdoor rinks, tobogganing hills, and snow machine trails, mental health, and based on the outcome of the decision that was made last week to extend the stay home, and that in conjunction led to the proposed resolution that was read by the clerk. So based on the resolution in front of us, I'll just do a quick roundtable so everyone can have their say and say yay or nay if they support or not the resolution that was read to us, or if there's any comments. Conseiller Yvon?
Thank you, Madame Medes. I do agree with that letter that was sent to us. I support it 100%. It does he makes reference to many, and whether the stats are correct, I'm not sure. I'm not going to argue that point, but nevertheless, whatever is said afterwards I agree with. I think we should remain in the provincial framework with respect to exemptions, to respect to how we should deal with and how we and I think in West Nipissing we fared fairly well. We've done everything humanly possible to keep ourselves safe, but unfortunately, if you close the doors in one area but leave the windows open, then things could happen. And unfortunately, what's happened here is that people are allowed to leave, come back. People are allowed to come through to us from other communities, and it's bringing the COVID to us. And we're being penalized because of that. And I don't agree with that. The process is that if you're going to close it, let's close it and let's do it properly. I agree with the mayor in Sudbury. Let's stop the people from coming in, except for whatever is needed to survive. But I mean, in essence, I think we should follow the provincial method and reopen the same as they have for other regions. I've already spoken to people who are going to go beyond our region to go shopping because it's going to be open, and it is open, and we're penalizing our businesses in this area, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I think the businesses are suffering and have been suffering long enough. But there's guidelines, and I agree with the guidelines. I have no problem with that. We've been following the guidelines. We do everything humanly possible to keep ourselves safe. But unfortunately, there's always the one that comes in and causes a problem. So I think we should support the motion put in place. Is that the same motion that Jay had been sent to us in the, I can't go to it, but is that the same motion?
Yes, that's part of the addendum that we received today.
Okay, so I will agree with that motion.
Okay,
100%.
We'll move on to Conseiller Leo.
Is it Councillor Chris for me, Madam Mayor?
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll pass it to you and we'll move on to Councillor Chris. My apologies.
That's okay. Yes, I agree. I agree to it, but I think for jurisdiction purposes, with the snowmobile trail, they're a private club. I don't think we can force them to stay open. And that I think Dr. Cherico is the we're part of that district. I think that's why
it's an order. Yeah, right now it's an order, Conseil Leo. So there's an order which the chief medical officer has the authority to close down the rinks, the tobogganing hills, and the snowmobile trails.
And then we're allowed to. This is just a suggestion to the Dr. Cherico to Mr. Help. Okay, I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Chris.
So I did actually exchange an email with the individual, and I think there's some great points there. And it is all terrible and no end in sight, et cetera. There's points we're well researched. However, I can't argue with Dr. Cherico, and I think if we encourage Dr. Cherico to lift some rules and people start dropping dead around us, then that's a problem. I think it's Dr. Cherico's job and we don't have the same information that he has. And so I really can't support the resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Conseil Broley?
Well, I would have a question. Can we override Dr. Sheriko's procedure on this?
Okay, you mean as far as orders? And I see
Yes.
Jay. Okay, Jay, no way.
No, so, just to clarify some of the issues, one of them is the framework that keeps us in a lockdown for a week and not getting into the color-coded zone is provincially mandated by the province. The issues with respect, and so everything that goes along with that, the issues with respect to asking Dr. Chirico or telling Dr. Chirico to basically lift his restrictions on toboggan hills and snowmobiling and that kind of thing. That is the authority of Dr. Chirico under the Health Promotion and Protection Act, I believe. And even his own board, it'd be like telling a police chief how to police. You don't have that authority either. You can make a recommendation or you can express your displeasure if that's the general wish of council, but you don't have the authority to do that. You do have the authority here, to suggest to Dr. Chirico a cost-benefit analysis, but my own small opinion on that is I believe that's much more of a wider global issue on the cost benefit happening throughout the world. And it's not just simply for a local health unit to do that analysis. I believe, the points are valid, but I believe those analyses would need to take place in the future.
So with this being said, I think it's pointless for us to discuss this. But I would like to have this sent to the emergency control group. They usually have the best in hand for West Nipissing. So if that request could be sent to emergency control group and then give us the opinion.
So I chair that. So I chair that group, and that group is a group of administrators, and we wouldn't really comment on that. I would say that our control group has basically taken the position that like any emergency management, you have what's called incident command. So if you got a bunch of forest fires outside of Living, then the incident commander is the MNR and our fire people. If you have a criminal thing, the incident command is our police. Well, right now you have a health thing. So the incident command is our public health people. So we tend to follow the directions of the experts in those areas who lead us through the crisis, and so really we're taking the direction from the province and the health and the provincial health authorities and the local health authorities.
I just hope that this is done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I just hope this ends soon. This is all I can say. As far as this, I think it's pointless. It's pointless.
Okay.
We can't change his mind. No.
Okay. Conseil Dan?
Yeah, I tend to agree with some of the comments that are made. It's a jurisdiction issue. The health unit that has a responsibility to keep people's lives, keep people healthy. And one of the things is maybe this is perceived as being a radical decision by closing rinks and hills and snowfield. That was the decision that he made. And the thing is I support it 100%. And just, the last comment that I saw from his organization is that we have 28 active files that, are still active. In the last month or so, we've become, proportionately, we've become the lead in the number of cases that have been in Ontario. So I think by supporting something like this is saying more or less that we don't agree with Dr. Chirico. I respect the work that the citizen did. The citizen did a lot of work on this, and democracy allows that. But the fact that we have no jurisdiction, and the fact that Dr. Chirico is basically trying to save lives in our community, and God forbid, Yvon, if one of the variants got into our community, because it would spread like a wildfire. And we've known that. We've got history of it, of what happened in North Bay. So I cannot support this. And furthermore, I know for a fact that if we read the minutes of the West Nipissing Emergency Control Group, they have been bringing comments of such as this to the health board, and I know that Mayor Joanne, you have been making some comments regarding opening up earlier and stuff like that. But the point is that we're in this together, and our role and responsibility is to save lives, and I think that's what Dr. Chirico is trying to do. So I can't support it whatsoever.
Conseiller Denis.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm also against it. I'm against this resolution because I think we've been well served by Dr. Chirico, and he's doing a good job. He's kept us safe so far. And to open up now, I don't think it's wise, especially with that variant in North Bay. So I don't support this resolution. I think we're in the right track here. We just have to keep patient for a little while. So I know for the resolution.
Well, I don't support it either. My comment is, I think everybody's sick and tired. Getting cabin fever, whatever you call it. It's not fun for anybody. Been retired for a little bit over a year. I cannot go anywhere. Buy brand new truck, I cannot use it. So I wish everything would be gone, but it's not gone. And we have expertise. And going against it, I don't agree. I don't. First of all, we can, and secondly, morally, safety is number one. As much as I want to get the hell out of this house as soon as possible and do what I can, we are an aging population. People wants to have fun. I can understand that, but I cannot support it for the safety for all residents of West Nipissing. So and whatever I say, there's not much because we cannot change it anyways, but I feel that I don't want to hide behind something like that. I have to say that I don't support it either. So, and I don't think none of us, even if we wishing and pushing for anything to be open sooner, because I remember the last meeting when we're talking about arena, we said we're going to wait till after the date, and we did what we were supposed to do. That's something that we are allowed to do. And now for the outside rink, we're allowed to do it if it goes back. So that's a decision we can make. We're allowed to make it, and we're making the right decision at the right time that we can do it. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Conseiller Yvon?
Just the last comment, Madam Mayor, thank you. Okay, and I listened to all of you. Now, unfortunately, as I mentioned in my previous comment, people are going to travel. Every time I go for a COVID test every week, and every time I go to COVID test, the first question they ask me, have you been abroad? No. Have you been in Sudbury? No. So Sudbury is a problem. So everybody's going to go shopping in Sudbury at Costco, at Walmart's, and they can come back with that within our region with the COVID. Now, we cannot stop this from happening. And then this happened. This COVID situation in North Bay, in this apartment block, is someone that came from somewhere else and spread it in within the block. Okay, and it's going to happen. And I don't care what you close and what you do, it's going to happen. Now, if you're going to close something, close everything, shut the doors, and make sure no one can get through. Okay, but if we don't do that, we're still going to have a problem because we're the central part of Ontario. They all come through here, and it's going to happen whether we want to or not. And what's happening here is that everyone else is open around us, and we're going to go out there abroad and do some shopping. Now, is that going to help the situation? No, it's not. And if everyone else was closed, yes, keep it closed. And I agree. But it's not the case. All right. So we're going to go out and abroad and get whatever we're going to get and come back and bring it here. So realistically, is this going to resolve our situation? No, it's not. I'm sorry, but it's not. So, and during that time, everyone suffers here. Everyone's suffering.
Okay, Conseiller Yvon, you stressed that at the get-go with your initial comment, and I'll concur. There's a lot of frustration. Everyone that's involved in making decisions and navigating through this process, you're dealing with the unknown. and you're trying to do the best to be able to protect the communities and protect the people. I had agreed to get it on the agenda this evening because it would have defeated the purpose to put it on the agenda at our next meeting, which would have been in March, because the issue had to do with the extended lockdown. The resolution as worded, I would personally not be able to support it. It doesn't make sense to start asking our chief medical officer, or I don't agree to be imposing logistical administrative tasks when there's already so many issues that are dear at heart and critical decisions that need to be done in a quickly fashion. And I think I concur. We're all tired, and we have the cabin fever, and it breaks our heart when we see that our local businesses are suffering, and that some of them have been closed for many weeks throughout the first lockdown, the second lockdown. If there's anything that council can think of as far as an initiative, that's the opportunity that we have that we can explore. But apart from that, our role as ambassadors is we need to make sure that we tell people as much as possible to respect the health regulation. It's not fun. The lockdown has been extended for another week. My only suggestion, and I'll pass it on to Conseiller Dan because you're a representative on the North Bay Health Unit, is I've asked Dr. Chirico in the past, and I continue to advocate that with COVID and with the variant of concern right now, that there should be some type of coordination between the neighboring health unit district. I have to say it was frustrating to almost see an event that would have taken place in a community adjacent to the west of us, where it would have attracted 150 people from Toronto, and it was canceled just probably 1 or 2 days before it was scheduled to take place. There has to be some type of coordination between our chief medical officers, because if there's something critical that happens to West Nipissing, we know that that critical issue is going to spread to our neighbors, either to the east or the west, and hopefully that can happen. And I know that they're doing their best, and they're trying to weigh their best when they make those decisions. So that's the only thing I'm going to say. And based on the roundtable, the resolution that's been presented, I'm not going to call it to a vote because majority has said no, the way that it's been worded, the way it's being presented, and everyone had their say, pertaining to their level of frustration and expectation for COVID and making sure that we stay safe as much as possible. Conseiller Dan?
Just in response to the coordination with the other health units, I can assure you that Dr. Chirico has told his board and has told, I in fact wrote to him about it. He's assured me that there are discussions. The discussions take place not only between the neighboring health units, but of the 34 health units. And they all have different issues. Now, he is responsible for his area. And his responsibility to me was, my job is to save lives in the North Bay Parry Sound healthier area.
I agree. I know what the job is, but I'm just saying.
He is, excuse me, just a second, I'll just finish that off. He is very, very conscious of the fact that he is dealing with his fellow health medical officers, and they're working together. But when it comes to a decision in his local area, he will take it, and he's not scared to take it. So that's the bottom line from his perspective.
Well, that's good to know, but I still say that they need to be communication, because I did reach out to the mayor of Killarney, and the mayor of Killarney found out about a potential order through the auspices of enforcement and not through the health unit. So that's why I'm saying, and a lot of people in West Nipissing were talking about that event, but you know what? I just stress on the issue of communication, and I just want people to have a better comprehension. People are frustrated, they're annoyed, they're hurting, they're tired, and whatever we can do to alleviate, if it can be done, do it. That's it. So the resolution is, yes, Melanie?
I was just going to say with the resolution, you had indicated we weren't going to vote, but it's been tabled. So
That's right. It's been tabled by doing a round table. The majority have identified no. So I'm going to ask the question, who's in favor of the resolution? Defeated. One of the shortest meeting that we've had in quite a while. I just want to conclude by providing two messages. One, good news. We all received email from Collège Boréal pertaining to a news release. Nous avons reçu un courriel du Collège Boréal à ce qui traite un communiqué informing all stakeholders that in 2022, they will be providing a new course avec le programme de soins infirmières auxiliaires. They're going to be providing the practical nursing program. It's going to be taking place at different campuses, Hearst, Kapuskasing, Windsor, and Nipissing. It is good news for our community. This will be coming in 2022. Also, all members of council were issued the doodle post or the doodle calendar to identify availability for budget meeting dates, which based on the calendar provided to us, would start from February 27, and I believe probably nearly all Mondays and Tuesdays up to and including April 14. So if we can do that ASAP, so this provides direction to staff, that would be greatly appreciated. Donc, ceci conclut notre réunion de conseil pour ce soir. This does conclude our meeting for this evening. Is there a mover and a seconder for the two resolutions that we need to adopt to adjourn? Conseil Leo, Conseil Dan.
Is moved by Councillor Manette and seconded by Councillor Ravita. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-09, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on the 16th day of February 2021, shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any objections? None. Carried. Adopté.
Il est proposé par Councillor Mallette, appuyé par Councillor Ravita. Be it resolved that the meeting of council held on February the 16th, 2021 be adjourned.
Any objections? Carried. Adopté. Bonsoir. Good evening.